Hey everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases and the host of Fostering Change. You know what? I want to say thank you and welcome to season 7. Season 7, I can't believe it's here. Do me a big favor. I really want you to listen. I want you to comment, and I definitely want you to subscribe. So I hope you enjoy this season as much as I've enjoyed our guests. You know what? It's so hard to believe we're in the month of November. November I absolutely love, and I love it for so many reasons. Number one, as you all know, this is National Adoption Awareness Month. Do you realize that more children in foster care actually get adopted in the month of November than any other month of the year? And by the way, my husband Reese and I, we actually adopted 2 of our 5 kids in the month of November. But you know what? I will tell you, I love November because of the weather where I live. I love November because it has one of my favorite holidays, which is Thanksgiving, but it also has National Adoption Day. Most people don't realize that 25 years ago, that this is actually our 26th year, the National Adoption Day started, and that is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And what happens is throughout the country, courthouses actually open up, judges come to work on a Saturday, and the only thing that they do is actually sign adoption papers for kids who are in foster care. Wow. I mean, that to me is such a full circle moment. I know that our push and our goal is truly through reunification. I think it's the best thing. I don't even think a child should come into foster care if they don't have to. But you know what? Kids deserve permanency. And I love the fact that we actually know that and we're feeling that and we're moving that needle. But I'm going to tell you, I wore this shirt specially for my next guest, who is my friend. My shirt says 700 children enter foster care every single day. Do you realize that that is one child every 2 minutes who enter our foster care system? Do you also realize that we have close to 400,000 children in the United States right now who are in foster care, and we do not have enough homes? We don't. I always hear people say, oh, we need beds. No, 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 no. Well, you know what? I'll give you all the beds you want. We need homes. And my next guest has truly shown that. Peter has been on my podcast before. He has finished his second book, Love Does Not Conquer All. Peter, welcome to Fostering Change.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Truly a joy that you get to invite me to be part of this.
Oh, Peter, I just tell you, I said this to you before we started recording. You are truly one of my favorite humans. I absolutely feel like even though we've never been able to personally meet face to face, I truly feel like you're my friend, that I know you, I know your children, your journey. But you know what? And we've talked about this before when you've been on my podcast, but I really want to our listeners to hear again because you actually, were not born here in the United States. You come from what most people don't realize, and you were homeless as a young boy. Tell people how your journey started.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So my journey started in Uganda. My dad is from Rwanda and my mom is from Uganda. Born and raised in a small little village in Uganda. Poor of the poorest. Think about this way, that if a mother cannot feed you for the night, how does she tell you to dream? So I grew up in a place where no one told me to dream or to be hopeful, because hopeful was lying to yourself. And then at the age of 4, I began to realize that my father was different from any other dads that I saw, on how he treated me and my mom as well. So the abuse was every day, every night. So, grew up in a home where the only few words that I had from my dad were, Peter, you'll never amount to anything. Peter, you're useless and worthless. Peter, I wish you had never born, so I did not have to feed you. That's what I had when I woke up in the morning and when I went to bed. So growing up from that world, you always thought, what's my life? Why live anywhere? So at the age of 10, I ran away. Not like I was looking for a better future. I think for me was, I'd rather die, but die in the hands of a stranger. So that was the reason why I ran away, because I thought my father would kill me. Of course, at 10 years old, that's all I could think of. Well, I lived on the streets of Kampala for 5 years, as a street kid. And as I was trying to steal from a stranger, this stranger saw the best in me and he put me in school and it changed my life. I went to high school, I went to university in Uganda, university in England, and that's how I came to the United States.
Wow, that is so unbelievable. I have to tell you, um, as a young boy, I grew up very much like you with a very abusive father who put cigarettes out on me as a little boy and, would remind me all the time that I was just worthless. And I never realized why him and my birth mother had 10 kids, because to us, we were just nothing but punching bags. And, to know at the age of 10 for you to have been homeless for 5 years. I mean, I was homeless for, a year after getting out of foster care, and I thought I was going to die, and you actually survived for 5 years. You know, do you feel that that's what gives you the grit that you have right now to continue the journey? And by the way, everybody, Peter doesn't have just one child. Peter, you've had over 40 children that you have fostered.
Yes, 47 in the last 8 years.
47 kids in the last 8 years. Do you feel that, by you not having, what you did not have as a child is the reason that you're paying it forward?
Absolutely. And also, I think for me that also my childhood really helps me to see the best in children that I think sometimes they come with trauma and behaviors, and sometimes we focus on the behaviors. And I love that this man didn't focus on, I was a thief, I was dirty, I didn't know what rules were, but he did focus on that. He saw the potential, and that's what he stuck with, and that's what changed my life. And I think for me as a parent, that's what I really wanted to do. Living in the United States, I knew of all people, I was the wealthiest human being on the planet, that I can have 3 meals, that I can choose a pair of shoes to wear, that I had a place to sleep. That for me, I felt, how can I live this life and not be able to help someone else? Too much is given, much required. Like I felt I was given much. And also, too, yes, that I think for me, what most people are afraid of, for me, it was part of my life. So actually, my childhood helps me to revisit my childhood and say, my kid is doing this. I did that. What was the reason why I did that? And that really helps me to say, you know what, Peter, don't panic. This kid is gonna be okay. And that's really been truly a tool, I would say. Rather see my past as negative. Yes, it was bad and negative, but as a parent, I've kind of really learned how to use that to be a better parent, or long for things that I longed as a child I never had, to be able that I can do that for my children as well.
I really actually felt your book was almost like a handbook.
Mhm.
As a dad who has adopted 5 children out of the foster care system, I really thought it was a handbook. But I will have to tell you something. I felt like it was a handbook that someone who has nothing to do with foster care, who has nothing to do with adoption, could actually read your book and take something away for it. And the thing is that, for me, just like with you, I came with trauma. I came with trauma from coming from the system. You came from trauma from living on the streets and having an abusive father. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you have children who come into your home that also, by the way, are coming with trauma. And whether that trauma comes out in many different ways, and with you having 47 kids, I can't imagine what you've experienced compared to what have I experienced in the last 5 years. But what I really want to know is that you made the point that you said you took your trauma to help analyze a child who's in your home's trauma. Can you
Mhm.
explain to our listeners exactly how that has worked? Because, for me as a dad, I've actually used that same tool where my husband, we've been together 20 years. He didn't know he didn't even know the word foster care when we met 20 years ago. And so it's very difficult for him to understand why our son at one particular age was acting out a certain way where he would have never done that to his parents. And so tell our listeners how you actually came to that knowledge of doing this.
Right, absolutely. Parents, we come with a baggage. We had either you had good parents or you had whatever parents you had. When we come to parenting, we bring on how we are raised, on how we are parented. So even bio parents, sometimes, they have regiments 1, 2, 3, 4 because that's what their parents, kind of taught them what they learned. And sometimes that doesn't apply to the children that we have. One, of the DNA age we are living in now, but also two, on ways to revisit as parents, revisit your own child and say, I was raised this way and I do things this way, but is that the right way?
Right.
And I think for me too, having raised from a traumatic world and faced in every way, shape, form, for me, it helps me to actually look back and say, I know this is about to trigger me, But I think this has nothing to do with my child. But I need to step back and say, Peter, do not let my own feelings or my own past childhood in some way get into my parenting style, And that has helped me. On the other side, it's helped me to see my kids in a way that they do things and I'm like, what? Wait, what? Like for example, hoarding food, that
Yeah.
was my love. Every time I saw a meal, I kept a little for later. Was I stealing food? Absolutely. But was that the reason just to steal? No, to me, it was survival. And in the same way that I get to see my child, when they are worried about a meal that they're worried it's not going to be there the next day, to know how did I overcome that and to bring the same tool towards my child, to have empathy, but also to be understanding, to validate what they are feeling like, hey, my kid feels there's no food tomorrow. He's rightly so. And so we've created ways like in our fridge, if we buy a pint of milk, if it has no name on it, that means it belongs to anybody. But when we write each one's name, they're able to open that fridge and say, my name is on it. That means I have a piece of share on that. So they are not worried about if I come tomorrow morning, will it be gone? No, because there's a name, and so they feel this belongs for me. So that I learned through my childhood that I'm able to bring in a way that really has helped me the best way that I can. So yes, sometimes we have about the worst childhood you could think of. But as we get to parent others, as we even friends, when we get to have friends that are different from us, we get to glean, am I fearful because of my past? Or am I not trusting because of my past? And in that way, to be able to say, you know what? This person wasn't there when I was little. This was not my father. So I should not have the same expectations,
Right.
as I did in my past. And that really helps us to truly have empathy. When you understand and are able to pull yourself and put in the other person's shoes, there's empathy that comes with it that you're able to say, I get it. I get it.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases and the host of Fostering Change. We've gone back to once a week, loving our guests. But guess what? I absolutely love. It's that time of year. That's exactly right. My amazing friend, Laura Coates from CNN, reached out and said, hey, Rob, what are we going to do this year? And I said, what do you want to do? She said, we're going to wrap coats of love around kids in foster care. That's exactly right. Last year we did this and we blew our number out of the park. I want to thank Ella Vance for stepping up. This year we've got some amazing sponsors. This kicks off on November 1st. That's exactly right. We are looking for brand new coats from birth up to the age of 21. We are collecting them for the entire month of National Adoption Awareness Month. This time, we're actually collecting coats from all over the country because we're going to spread our love just like that. Laura is such an amazing human. She truly wants to make a difference within her community. And by the way, she believes like I do. Your community is not your zip code. Our community is our human race. I want children in foster care to know that they are part of our community and they deserve those brand new winter coats just like my children get, your children get, our children get. So do me a big favor, head on over to comfortcases.org. Click on my beautiful friend Laura Coates, and you will see that we're doing coats for comfort. Thanks, everybody, and I hope to see all those coats coming into our National Center. Have a great day. Yeah, going back to the hoarding of the food, I had one of our children who arrived had the same issue, and it took us almost a year, as we would find stuff in the room of for hoarding of food. But my husband reminded me that I have this thing called the hamburger helper rule, and I don't eat hamburger helper, but for some reason I had to had so many boxes of that in the cabinet because I remember as a kid what it felt like not to have food. I remember
Mm,
when I was homeless, what it felt like not to have food. And at 58 years old, I
mm.
still, I mean, probably have more of an abundance of food than we need, but there's always this feeling. And so to know that, we were able to work through that with our child. Peter, I got to ask you something personally because for me, it really changed my life. Did you do therapy?
Yes and no. Of course, coming from Africa, there's no therapy. It's a culture that does not provide that. But before I became a father, I thought, listen, for me to be the best parent I can be, I really need to revisit my child with someone who's a professional to be able to help me, you know? And that's what I did. And then number two is for me going through classes for my children to be a foster parent. I use it for myself rather than say I'm learning trauma for my children. Rather, I looked at it and say I'm learning trauma about myself. And if I can understanding from my point of view, then I'll be able to help the child in some way. And that's really what helped me in a way.
Yeah, so I will tell you, I love my therapist, Dr. Rich. I see, talk to him every single Monday. He helps me truly get through it because having teenagers, and by the way, we just, this year we dropped two of our kids off at college. It has been a very quiet house, but I'm so excited this month because they come home for Thanksgiving. The fact is, again, everybody, I'm going to put the link of this. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to my amazing friend Jen Lilly, who actually, she gave kudos to your book. Jen and I
Yes.
have been friends for years, and absolutely, if Jen says it's good, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody, it's good. And by the way, I read a lot of books, and my producer can tell you, I get a lot of books, but I love this book. I took it on an airplane. I was having to head across country, and I was able to, by the time I got back, I was able to finish it. But Peter, this is my question. We need foster parents really bad. We really do
Yes.
in our country. The
Mhm.
fact is kids are not stopping coming into the system.
No,
Know that.
no,
I do believe that we as a community can do better by supporting families before a child enters the system. Um,
exactly.
but for some reason, Peter, people just don't get that. Instead, it's immediately let's yank the kid and put the kid in the system, and the trauma has already started. When you get to that point where the child is being reunified, and by the way, you know, for years it was push for adoption, and now we're in the reunification push. Um, Tell me, because our listeners need to know this, because I want people to be foster parents. How do you heal your heart when that child leaves?
Well, absolutely. Bonding is a natural way human need do. When we meet friends, when we meet people, we get to love on them. But we never ask them, hey, I want to be your friend, but when are you leaving town? We just fall in love. It's a natural way we do. Us as foster parents, it's a natural way we get to do. And for us, even close and quick because they are little ones. And also we get to know more about their lives that we want to be involved and help them along the way. So the bonding is much more, especially for the difficult children, for sure. I can tell you. But I think for me, I've learned and I've reminded myself, I'm a foster parent. Foster parent means I'm a temporary parent for the child. That yes, I love them and I would like to have them for the rest of my life, but I'm a temporary parent. But also to value their parents, to know that there's a parent on the other side working so hard to beat the odds so they can have their children. The best I can be is truly, truly that support. And so for me, I pursue the parents of my children that I get to really come alongside, the things I get to teach them, I would like their parents to know. So when they come home, they're able to continue those. But two, I want to be a distant uncle. So
Yeah.
for me to be a decent uncle is I have to truly treasure the mom and dad and not be a judge, not judge them or see them as villains, but see as the parents who are struggling and come alongside and help them. For me, every cold day, I call my first parent, my bio parents and say, hey, are you ready? Will you be there tomorrow? Because I'll be there because I want to cheer them up so they know there's someone on the other side that is cheering them up. And in that way, we get to have a bonding. But also, I get to have a long-term relation with their children because I advocated for both of them, the children and their parents as well. And that's how it works. I'm not saying goodbye in some way. I'll say, I'll see you next weekend. We can visit anytime. And for me, I open my house to say, hey, if you're struggling and you need a weekend, let me be the first one to take in your children. But by me advocating for them, they know that fully well that I wasn't kidding and I love their children and I'm able to see them. So partnering and seeing them as human beings and having empathy towards parents, it really helps us to see their kids go back and transition there. But at the same as I said, I just want to be a big uncle on the other side.
I love
And
that.
that's what it takes. Yes, I can tell you, humanly speaking, it's difficult. But also, too, here's what I found as that is actually the tool that we all want when we get attachment. When we have that, most of our kids don't have that. So for us to love on them and fight for them, usually it really works in a sense that we help them overcome their trauma because we're able to love that deep. that bonding, and it works. So sometimes parents, foster parents who are afraid of bonding and say, I'm gonna get attached, I can't say goodbye. Actually, you're the one we need because that's what most of our kids are looking for. A parent that will bond, but a parent who will help them overcome, but also help them go back home.
Yeah, my husband said it to me when we first started to foster to adopt 16 years ago. If we could change a child's life for just one day, we've made a difference in the world. The fact is that we also believe that, as foster parents, that it was very important for us to support the parents, the bio parents. And I think that the system is so broken when it comes to that. I've always said when a child comes into foster care, the very first thing that should happen is everybody should come to the table. They should have the birth parents, the foster parents, the guardian ad litem, the CASA, the social worker, and we all should sit there and say, how can we support these parents to get their child back as quickly as
It's
possible?
possible.
What can we do? You need me to drive you to drug rehab? I'll drive you to drug rehab. You need me to change visitations and let the courts allow me to bring your child to supervised visitations on a Saturday? We did that, by the way, with one of our children.
Mhm.
We believe that it's important that we do not continuously make birth parents the villain, that they are
Mhm.
these, but every single one of us, and Peter, you and I both know this, we all have fallen within our lives. Every single
Yes.
one of us. It's whether or not we have people there who are pushing us down or helping us pick us up. And I love what you said about being the uncle, because one of the things that I've always been concerned with over the many years of being in this system since the 70s is that, I see so many kids who come into foster care, they flounder for years. And it's like we don't do anything. Nobody's doing anything. And we're not being adults when it comes to these kids. But, at the same time, you know, I think that we need to have a time limit. I just truly believe that as birth parents, and I know I'm going to get enough emails for this because I've said it before.
Right.
I truly believe that birth parents, they kids aren't a pawn, and they don't have, parents need to get in the game and play it and get the work done. It's hard work, whether you're dealing with experiencing homelessness, whether you're dealing with an addiction, whether I mean, there's so many things, but you got to take the first step and ask for the help.
Mhm.
We really do. I feel like, I think we do a disservice to kids in foster care by not having an uncle like you. I really,
Right.
truly do, Peter.
Absolutely. And sometimes I believe that any foster youth in foster care needs one adult who they can call, who can check on them, and it will change literally 80% of where they could have gone will change that. I've had teenagers, I have seen where they go back home and they are struggling, but knowing that I have Uncle Peter on the other side that can call and will pick up and help. And that's all they needed. And literally, that's all they needed. And most time they go, they realize, like, what you've been helping me and telling me actually is true. Now I get to see it. And now they might not have taken it at 14, 17, 18, but now at 18, they say, you know what? I want to go a little bit back because now I'm mature enough to understand. And they need that adult to be there. My kids drive, they go to work. Like literally, there's no way they could have gone to work if I had not given them the tool to drive first. And that way they can count on getting there. But two, they truly know that there's someone who will help them navigate that. And to me, sometimes it's sad that I get a 16-year-old and 18-year-old in my home, and they barely don't know how to do laundry. That they have no basic skills, and you're like, but where have you been all these years?
Yeah.
And truly, I like what you said. Step up and say, I'm gonna give you all you can. When you go to that world that you don't know, you have a few tools to help you survive. And I'm going to be on the other side to say, I cheer you up. When things go wrong, you say, okay, let me help. Let's help. And in that way, we get to let our kids not be homeless or be taken advantage of
Yeah. And
in
the
so many
fact
ways.
is that children are resilient. Children
Yes.
are resilient. I have watched it in the eyes of our five children. For us to adopt an 18-year-old who's now 24 in his junior year in college, for my son who came to us with fetal alcohol syndrome, and they said, we should institutionalize him at 5. He's
Right.
now at a very prestigious university studying cybersecurity. Kids are resilient if you believe in them, if you invest in them, and if you give them the tools to be better humans. And you and I both know empathy is not in our DNA. It is
No.
taught. It is taught. And I see you, by the way, you teach that all the time. Peter, I have to tell you something. You are truly one of my favorite guests. I am truly asking you to come back. I'd like for you and I to co-host an episode with somebody. We're gonna have somebody else on. I think it'd be kind of cool if you and I co-hosted one of
Yes.
the segments, because I just feel like there's so many tools that you're doing that people need to hear about. And I'm telling you something, guys, this book, get this book. This book truly, truly, I actually, when I brought the book home, I handed it to Reese and I said, I know we're not going to foster and adopt any more kids, by the way. We
Right.
said that. He said, right now I've got 4 in college. So he's like, we got 1 left out in high school. He's like, but I said to him, I said, honey, I'm telling you, read this book because it's going to make you really think about, maybe because we are still doing something, maybe we could just tweak it just a little bit.
Tweak a little.
Peter, if there's one thing that you could change in our foster care system, as we end this segment, what would that be?
Will be from intervening in the life of a child before they come. Like we don't have to wait until they come into foster care. Like I wish there was a way to truly come in. Like I wish I could be a foster parent of kids who haven't come to the foster care system but are still needing help. That I think once they cross that line, it is really difficult to go back to normal. That I wish I could be meant. Like for example, like foster for families. Like they don't have to take their kids out, but I get to be the one to check on them, make sure things like I am the foster parent from afar, that I feel we can impact the children without yanking them out of their parents' homes, but by being there for them, making sure where you're living, where you're driving, where the kids go in school. Like that's my job. I think that would really be awesome for the children, not to really endure the trauma, but they have to go once we take them into foster care and take them from home. I wish we could do what we do in foster care to the moms before we take
Yes.
their kids away.
You know what, Peter? This is why you and I are such good friends, because I'm not kidding you. Over the years, people have always asked me, what would I do? And I said, why can't we foster the family
Yes.
instead of bringing the child out? And by the way, if there's a perpetrator in the family, remove the perpetrator. But
Yes.
don't disrupt the child and come in and foster the family. It's the thing, and I know we were going to end this, but I got to say, it's the whole thing with WIC. Those of us in the country, across the country, WIC is received by foster parents. You get, and they give this to people with low income. They give it for their children. They get it till they're under the age of 5. They get milk, they get cheese. But let me tell you the one thing that they give that is absolutely crazy to me. They give them bags of pinto beans. Now, I don't know about you, but I was never raised and taught how to make pinto beans.
No.
The fact is that could you imagine if we fostered the family, if we went in and taught her how to take a crock pot and pour those pinto beans in and pour the water in, and when the beans float to the top, you remove those because they're no good, and how to cook
Yes.
that, put a piece of ham in there. That's the thing that we forget as a community that we need to do is to actually support each
Absolutely.
other.
Yeah, take them for medical checkup. Like we're like, I'll go with you. We'll make sure the kids are checked up. And like nutrients, like all those would be really awesome. The other part I would like to change is truly helping the kinship. I feel like sometimes we don't really give the same help to kinship than they give me. Like I feel we can do more if we truly help the kinship to say you will get as much as benefit and help as a foster parent
Great.
if you take in the children, and we'll be there for you. Like I live in North Carolina. If you go to grandma, yeah, there's no help. I'm like, what? Wait,
I know. I
they're
know.
older. They need help, but why won't you be the person to help?
I agree. Isn't it crazy? We will actually give strangers as
Yes,
much as we possibly give them, but we
correct.
will not give someone who is related to them that are
Yes.
opening up their door. And by the way,
Yes.
you know as well as I do, kids are expensive. Kids are
Yes.
expensive. And
Oh,
for those of you who think foster parents are getting rich, that is not true. I mean, those of us who are doing what we are truly supposed to do, I agree. Kinship I think is looked at the wrong way. I think kinship, we should have just the same amount of support, the same amount of
yes.
stipend, the same amount of everything that they give to a foster parent should also be given to a kinship. And kinship should be looked at way before we look at foster care. Everybody,
Absolutely.
I will tell you, this has been an amazing. This is probably one of the longest episodes that I have. My friend Peter, please, if you haven't followed someone on Instagram, I am telling you, follow my friend Peter. He is, you know, you have the most beautiful children. I love the fact that, for me as a dad who is a white man who is raising four kids of color, you are a black man who are raising white children. You are showing the world, as I and my husband show the world, is you're not changing them.
No.
You've learned how to do hair like you would not believe. By
Yes.
the way, you would be surprised. As for me, I learned how to put beads on my daughter's hair when she was little. So, we all have that tool. Listen up, everybody. This has been the most amazing episode of Fostering Change. I just hope you all realize National Adoption Awareness Month. Really, you can all go out there and make a difference. Not everybody is made to foster. Not everybody's made to adopt. But the fact is that you can mentor. You can go in there, and if you see that neighbor and their lights haven't been on for a week or so, knock on their door. Ask them,
Yes.
"Are you okay?
Yes.
Is there something I
Yes.
can help you with?" You got to realize communities were built for us to take care of each other. And Peter, you have been taking care of 47 kids and still counting, and I can't thank you enough, brother. And I love
Right.
you to the moon and back. And
Yes.
everybody,
We have something for you. We have something for you. You do bags. You do bags for kids, right?
right, we do.
Also big bags or just small
No,
bags?
we do big bags. We give them
Yeah.
32-inch duffel bags and we give them backpacks filled with all the essentials.
So me and my family, someone blessed us with some money, we would like to give you $3,000
Are
for
you
bags.
kidding me?
I'm not kidding, Rob. Yes, we give you three
Peter, I've had
grand.
people. I for this is my seventh season.
Correct.
On this is my seventh. I think my seventh season, six or seventh season. I've never had a guest do this before. I am blown away. You are so unbelievably kind and generous. We're a 96% volunteer brand charity. So the fact is that we will definitely be sending some bags. And
No.
by the way, you're in North Carolina, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so we actually did the North Carolina where we actually provide cases to every child that enters foster care in North Carolina.
Oh,
We
wow.
have an agreement with them that they go to our website for free. They can get cases and we ship them out. All thanks to one of our sponsors. And so you are really truly making a difference. So thank you, Peter. Everybody, go follow him on Instagram. Please buy his book. And do me a big favor. If you buy a book and read it, write a review. Write a review.
Yes.
As an
Yes.
author, we love those
The
reviews.
reviews.
And by the way, so do our publishers. Everyone, have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing month. And Peter, you and I are going to be doing an episode again real soon. Take care,
Hmm.
everybody.